In America, cars are more than just transportation. They're freedom, they're power, and sometimes they're where car makers try the wildest ideas they've ever imagined. In the world of V8 engines, where torque, noise, and engineering collide, General Motors has never shied away from pushing boundaries. From a V12 built by fusing two V6s to turbocharged V8s without even an intercooler. From engines that ran on rocket fluid to small blocks so weak even GM fans try to forget they existed. Some were failures, some were ahead of their time, but all of them share one thing in common. They'll leave you speechless. You're about to dive into 12 of the weirdest V8 engines GM has ever built, each one a bold, wild, and mind-bending chapter in American automotive history. And trust me, you've never seen GM like this before. Number 12, Chevy W-Series small block. When people hear Chevy small block, they think of legends like the 350, the mighty 327, or even the smooth-running 305. But in 1979, GM did something that left gearheads scratching their heads. The Chevy W-Series V8, an engine that had all the looks of a V8, but none of the power. With just 4.4 liters of displacement, the W-Series was GM's attempt at better fuel economy during the gas crisis. On paper, that sounded smart. In reality, it was embarrassingly weak, pushing out just 115 to 125 horsepower and around 200 pound-feet of torque. The worst part? It powered cars like the Camaro, Monte Carlo, and Malibu. Models that looked fast, but felt like they were dragging bricks uphill. Technically, the W-Series had such a tiny bore that airflow was choked off, making performance upgrades nearly impossible. And despite its eco-friendly intentions, it wasn't significantly more efficient than the bigger, better 305 V8. It was a V8 in name only, slow, sluggish, and ultimately forgettable. By 1982, GM quietly pulled the plug on the W-Series. A silent end to a loud mistake. Number 11, Oldsmobile Aurora 4.0-liter DOHC V8. It was supposed to be the lifeline for a dying brand. By the 1990s, Oldsmobile, one of GM's oldest and proudest marques, was fading fast, caught between modern Japanese competition and aggressive domestic rivals. So GM gave them a secret weapon, the Aurora V8. At first glance, it was a gem, a 4.0-liter, all-aluminum, dual overhead cam, high-revving engine, essentially a refined sibling of Cadillac's legendary Northstar V8. But instead of powering a sports car or a flagship luxury sedan, the Aurora V8 was tucked away in a front-wheel drive Oldsmobile Aurora. With 250 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque, it was smooth, confident, and impressive for a FWD luxury sedan in the mid-90s. Yet GM never allowed it to shine. It remained exclusive to Oldsmobile, never offered in a Cadillac, never given a second chance. It was a brilliant engine, locked in a box no one opened. When Oldsmobile shut down in 2004, the Aurora V8 vanished quietly. No fanfare, no revival, just a ghost of potential, remembered only by those lucky enough to drive it. Number 10, GMC Twin 702 V12. Let's turn back the clock to 1960s, America. When highways were still being built, heavy-duty trucks ruled the roads, and engines weren't just about power, they were about grit and muscle. In that era, GMC quietly created one of the strangest engines GM ever built, the Twin 702 V12. Yes, a V12, in a world dominated by V8s. But don't expect it in a sports car. The Twin 6 wasn't about speed, it was about work. It was essentially two GMC 351 V6 fused together, forming a colossal 702 cubic inch 11.5-liter V12 designed for nothing but heavy hauling. The numbers? 275 horsepower, but a massive 565 pound-feet of torque at just 1,600 RPM. Perfect for moving mountains, not racing down highways. It had 4 cylinder heads, 2 distributors, but only one camshaft. Simple, rugged, and built for the job site. But then came diesel, and the Twin 6 faded quietly into history. It was never seen in a passenger car, never glorified in a museum. Yet to those who heard its deep rumble behind a dump truck in the 60s, it was unforgettable. It wasn't flashy. It was America at work. Number 9. Pontiac 301 Turbo. If you were a muscle car fan in the early 1980s, you probably felt like the last soldier in a lost war. V8s were shrinking under emissions laws, sports cars were getting slower, and the thrill of American acceleration was fading fast. But Pontiac, fighting to the very end, threw down one final gamble. The 301 Turbo V8. This was a turbocharged V8, virtually unheard of in American cars at the time. With just 4.9 liters of displacement, it relied on forced induction to fight back against tightening regulations. It made 210 horsepower and 345 pound-feet of torque, powering the 1981 Trans Am with just enough fire to keep the spirit alive. On paper, at least. But here's the catch. No intercooler, no forged internals, no wastegate. All the red flags for performance enthusiasts. Its early electronic ignition system was crude, leading to unpredictable results. The 301 Turbo was Pontiac's last stand. It didn't win the war, but it refused to go down without swinging. It wasn't perfect, but it was brave. And in a time of compromise, that meant everything. Number 8, Shortstar LX5 V6. If you're a gearhead casually skimming through an old GM spec sheet and you stumble upon the name LX5 Shortstar, you might scroll right past it. But hidden beneath that bland label lies a technical mystery, a V8 soul trapped in a V6 shell. Released in 1999, the Shortstar LX5 was a downsized version of Cadillac's iconic Northstar 5.8. It had everything. All aluminum construction, DOHC layout, high revving character, and refined engineering. But instead of finding its home in a luxury coupe or performance sedan, it was tucked away inside the Oldsmobile Intrigue, a car most people forgot. With 215 horsepower and 234 pound-feet of torque, it was strong, smooth, and ahead of its V6 peers. Yet GM never gave it a real shot. It was never used in a Cadillac, never dropped into anything exciting. The Shortstar was a gem hidden beneath layers of corporate hesitation. And when Oldsmobile was shuttered in 2004, the Shortstar disappeared with it. No legacy, no spotlight. Just a quiet ending to an engine that deserved a second act. Number 7. Cadillac LV2 V8-6-4. Some ideas are just too good to ignore, but too early to succeed. In 1981, Cadillac unveiled what could have been a defining technological breakthrough of the century, the LV2 V8-6-4 engine, capable of automatically shutting down cylinders based on driving conditions. It's the ancestor of today's cylinder deactivation tech, used in millions of modern vehicles. Cadillac hoped this would be their silver bullet during the fuel crisis. Need power? Run all 8 cylinders, just cruising. Drop to 6 or even 4 cylinders to save gas. Brilliant on paper. But what doomed this dream was the primitive early generation ECU. The transitions weren't smooth. Drivers felt jerks, hesitation, and inconsistent performance. It might shift to 4 cylinders during acceleration, or switch erratically going uphill. Frustrated owners and baffled mechanics often disabled the system entirely, forcing the engine to run on all 8 cylinders full-time. After just 1 year, Cadillac pulled the plug. But no one can deny they saw the future. Sadly, that future just arrived too early. Number 6. Chevy 348/409. W-Series. Before people worshipped the big block 396 or idolized the 427, Chevrolet had another line of engines, strange, unique, and once king of the drag strip. Meet the 348 and 409 W-Series. Names rarely spoken today, but once stars of American speed culture. Born in the late 1950s, the W-Series had a design like no other. Combustion chambers formed in the piston, not the head, tilted cylinders, and an almost flat cylinder head, creating the signature W shape. This setup was made for massive low-end torque, perfect for launching cars off the line. The 348th version powered big sedans and light trucks. But in 1961, Chevy unleashed the 409, and everything changed. With up to 425 horsepower, it turned full-size Impala SS coupes into street monsters. Suddenly, the drag strip was no longer just for Ford and Mopar. GM had entered the ring swinging. But the design had limits. It didn't breathe well at high RPMs, and when new big blocks like the 396 and 427 arrived, the W-Series faded away. No ceremony, no farewell. Just a haunting echo in the lyrics. She's real fine, my 409. Number 5. LV2 EFI V8. Cadillac Seville. In 1980, Cadillac bet big on an electronic future by launching the LV2, a 5.0-liter V8, with GM's first electronic fuel injection system. At a time when European rivals were gaining ground through tech innovation, Cadillac wanted to prove it was still the king of American luxury. Bold, refined, and now fuel-efficient. On paper, the LV2 looked like a gateway to the future. A modern V8 running smooth and clean, precisely managed by a digital control module. But reality didn't match the slides in the boardroom. The early ECU was too primitive, unable to handle real-world driving complexities. The engine stumbled, idled rough, and had inconsistent throttle response. Drivers expected silk, but got a mechanical mood swing. To make things worse, Cadillac still offered the same engine with a carburetor, and it ran far better. Many owners, fed up with the headaches, simply ripped out the EFI and reverted to the old-school setup. LV2 was a technological dream, just not ready to wake up. It didn't fail because the idea was wrong, but because the world wasn't ready yet. A tough lesson for Cadillac and for GM. Number 4. Oldsmobile Turbo Rocket V8. In 1962, while NASA was still figuring out how to send humans into orbit, Oldsmobile decided to bring turbocharging to the streets. The result? The Turbo Rocket V8, the world's first turbocharged engine in a production car. And it sounded like something straight out of science fiction. This engine was an all-aluminum 215 cubic-inch V8 paired with a Garrett T5 turbocharger. And most bizarre of all, it relied on something called turbo rocket fluid, a methanol water cocktail injected into the engine to prevent detonation. Yes, seriously, if the driver forgot to refill this mystery fluid, the turbo system would shut itself down. On paper, it was brilliant. The engine made 215 horsepower, and 300 pound-feet of torque. In a lightweight coupe like the Jetfire, that was impressive. But real-world execution? Not so smooth. Most owners had no idea how to maintain the system, forgot to refill the special fluid, or simply didn't trust such futuristic tech. Within 2 years, Oldsmobile recalled most of the cars and swapped out the turbo for a conventional carburetor. The Turbo Rocket V8 was a rocket engine strapped to a grocery getter. Brilliant, ambitious, and far too weird to survive. Number 3. Chevy Vega V8 prototype. Imagine this: a small, lightweight coupe, barely larger than a compact, powered by a thundering V8. A factory-built mini muscle car that could light up the streets in seconds. Sounds like a dream? Well, Chevy once came very close with the early 1970s Vega V8 prototype. The Vega was built to compete with fuel-efficient Japanese imports. But some Chevrolet engineers had a wilder idea: drop a 262 cubic inch small block V8 into the Vega's tiny frame, pair it with a 4-speed manual, and unleash a showroom-ready street rocket. On paper, it was genius. Lightweight chassis, big power, low cost. In reality, a disaster waiting to happen. The Vega's frame was built for mild 4 cylinders, not the fury of a V8. It became nose-heavy, unbalanced, and borderline dangerous. Steering suffered, braking was inadequate, and handling practically non-existent. The project was scrapped before it reached production, but the idea didn't die. Street racers embraced the concept, stuffing V8s into Vegas and creating some of the wildest sleepers of the 70s. Chevy even responded later with the Monza V8, a spiritual successor. The Chevy Vega V8 prototype, a dream that crashed at the drawing board, but still lives on in the hearts of muscle car dreamers everywhere. Number 2. Cadillac 500 CI-V8. Once upon a time, it was a true king. Not of racetracks, but of boulevards, where Cadillac reigned supreme as a symbol of prosperity, elegance, and effortless power. And the beating heart of those land yachts? A behemoth of an engine. The 500 cubic inch V8, or 8.2 liters, the largest engine GM ever installed in a production passenger car. Debuting in 1970, it cranked out 400 horsepower and 550 pound-feet of torque, enough to glide a massive Eldorado or Fleetwood down the road like it was riding on air. But unlike the rowdy big blocks from Chevy or Pontiac, the Cadillac 500 didn't roar. It whispered authority with low-end torque, like a king carried on a throne. Then came the oil crisis, emissions laws tightened, and the king lost his crown. By 1976, output had plummeted to just 190 horsepower. Cadillac quietly pulled the plug, and the mighty 500 faded away. But it wasn't gone. Hot rodders soon realized the truth. With its massive displacement, the Cadillac 500 was a hidden gem for drag builds. Performance pistons, cam swaps, twin intakes, and suddenly, this retired luxury lump was setting quarter-mile times that turned heads. From majestic ruler to forgotten relic, and finally to fire-breathing street monster, the Cadillac 500 cubic inch V8 proves one thing: even fallen kings can rise again. Number 1. Chevy ZL1 Not all legends are born under the spotlight. Some engines are crafted in silence, with one goal: to win. And sometimes, by accident or destiny, they step into the light and become icons. The ZL1427 is exactly that kind of legend. Born in 1969, the ZL1 wasn't meant for Camaros or Corvettes. It was built for Can-Am racing, where lightweight power plants ruled. This engine was made entirely of aluminum, block, heads, intake, shedding over 100 pounds compared to typical iron big blocks. And power. GM modestly rated it at 430 horsepower, but real-world figures came close to 500 HP in stock form. However, due to homologation rules, GM had to produce a small batch for street use. That's how 69 ZL1 Camaros were born. Add in a few ultra-rare Corvettes, and a legend was accidentally unleashed. The price? Nearly double that of a standard Camaro, making it one of the rarest GM production engines ever. But for purists, it wasn't just a car. It was a machine built to shatter expectations. Today, the ZL1427 is a holy grail. Once a track secret, now a street legend. A reminder that sometimes the greatest creations emerge from the shadows. From engines too big to survive, to ideas too early for their time. From dreams buried inside family sedans, to legends born from the racetrack. These 12 of GM's weirdest V8s tell more than just engineering tales. They tell stories of madness, ambition, and fearless experimentation. Whether they soared or flopped, each engine in this list carried a bold message: that American car culture never settles for average. It dares, it dreams, and sometimes it creates the unbelievable. Which engine left the biggest impression on you? Let us know in the comments. If you want more stories about forgotten machines and wild ideas from the heart of American motoring, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with your fellow car lovers.